The Chinese-Indonesian bilateral relationships have emerged to become one of the most notable series of events in the 21st Asian century, as the two nations' heads of states exchange ties to form a grand relationship, which some may claim to be one of the biggest and most important diplomatic relations within the entire continent. This was influenced because China, a nation that had an insignificant role within the past few decades in international affairs, had slowly become among the largest nations to grow out into Indonesia and the entire world as a leading source of trade, foreign investments, source of loans, human capital and outsourcing, and so much more. These various chains of China have become quite impactful in Indonesia in recent years, and what has stood out is their programs that are today helping Indonesia construct some of the largest mega projects in its history, which in some have been related to China's infamous scheme known as the Belt and Road Initiative and other bodies of work, which have produced the results of the so-called Jakarta-Bandung high-speed railway to the Batang Toru hydroelectric power plant and so much more. These well-known projects have also been called a controversial play by several governing bodies, as the sitting government of Indonesia has surprisingly ignored its longtime partner and economic ally from East Asia known as Japan, after they went on to ignore the country's bid to build one of its high-speed railways. This had happened even through several special negotiations had gone underway, and even the president of Indonesia, Joko Widodo, had flown to Tokyo, the capital of Japan, to meet former President Shinzo Abe. With Indonesia slowly drifting toward China, it was inherent to see that the nation would slowly back away from its former allies. After all, this may have been quite expected already, as China has indeed a growing important role in Southeast Asia, with Japan slowly becoming less as its economy and nation falters further due to its aging population and a stagnant economy. With their role growing, one of the many ways a nation imposes itself as a strategic partner is through foreign direct investments. And according to the Bank Indonesia, China has emerged as the third largest source of these well-known foreign investments, just behind Singapore and its special administrative region of China known as Hong Kong. These Hong Kong and China investments had a collective investments combined worth over 25% to the total investments that came into Indonesia in 2021. This is only behind Singapore, which holds over 30.2% of the entire 2021 foreign investments, and far above the likes of Japan, which had little to invest in at 7.3%, and the United States with 8.2%. These foreign investment activities have been long seen as an important way to exchange foreign bilateral ties between nations, and these just show how China has indeed played a huge role. But while they have become such a force in foreign capital, it has actually only been quite so in the most recent years. Data from BKPM Indonesia shows that from 2013 to 2015, China was nowhere near the top 5 largest investors in Indonesia, and it was in fact goes far deep out in the dawn of the 21st century, where from the year 2000 to 2014, Indonesia has only received 2.4% of the total aid and investments that China has given out during those 14 long years. But these things have all changed come 2016 to 2019, which have been the most significant years in enhancing the two nations' relationships with each other. Furthermore, China and Indonesia have also had a growing rise in bilateral trade, which resulted in over $78.4 billion in 2020, and by 2021, this grew exponentially to over $120 billion, which is a figure that makes China the largest bilateral partner of Indonesia. This is so large that it is far ahead among Indonesia's former largest investors and bilateral partners, such as the United States, the European Union, and Japan. It is even in fact larger than its bilateral trade with its regional association bloc known as ASEAN. Such an important occurrence would not have happened in just a short amount of time. These have all been happening, and it is just the result of its decades-long relationship, which started way back in 1950 when the China-Indonesia diplomatic relations were established. Although during these times there were quite a few international and national troubles that made interactions quite difficult to do so. By 1967, this established relationship was even suspended due to the emergence of the 13th of September movement in Indonesia, which established a new Indonesian nation as Suharto came into power. With the nation of Indonesia experiencing tremendous change, these have also resulted in an upgrade within the economy as the archipelago nation discovers newly emerging trends that bolstered its entire country. By the 1980s, their reach had become well known throughout the entire Southeast and East Asian regions, and relations with China had improved. By the later years of the 1980s decade, then Foreign Minister of China, Qian Keqian, went on to meet former President Suharto as the two political leaders had conversations surrounding the two nations' relationships with each other. These discussions may have presumably marked the start of a long-lasting relationship and connection between China and Indonesia. Fast forward to the 21st century, diplomatic relations have reached a high with bilateral trade leading the way as it grew to over $3.8 billion in 2003. And these have been further pushed because of China's foreign policy called the ASEAN-China Free Trade Area. This saw trade between ASEAN and China grow, but more so for Indonesia, which by 2010 saw its trade with China balloon to $36.1 billion. Today, China's role has evidently grown so big after its trade and investments became Indonesia's biggest. What's relatively stabilizing this and hoping it to grow further is because of the current president of Indonesia, Joko Widodo. After being elected in 2014, he went on to visit China to attend the APEC summit, where he met Chinese leaders. Since then, the two nations' leaders had continuously seen each other for meetings for political talks. One significant game changer was China's Belt and Road Initiative, which is an infrastructure initiative brought to the world by China. This was the perfect plan for Indonesia's president because his policies are somewhat the same: build and grow. Among the infrastructure plans that resulted because of these relations ranges from transportation infrastructure, energy projects, airports, industrial parks, and so much more. The China-backed work is basically everywhere in the nation, stretching from North Sumatra to North Kalimantan to Bali and North Sulawesi. One of the most recent and among the largest is a $132 billion green industrial estate on Borneo, which is partly funded by China, Indonesia, and the United Arab Emirates, and this will see the construction of a 30,000-hectare industrial zone in North Kalimantan. And it will be responsible for manufacturing the future of sustainability, such as electric vehicle batteries, solar panels, and industrial silicone. This initiative will make Indonesia's economy go through a revolution in the world of sustainability. Now, why did China choose Indonesia? Well, we all know that Indonesia holds a promising role in becoming one of the next economic superpowers in the Asian region. But specifically, in our opinion, we can see that the majority of recent investments are really directed into the development of its nickel industry, which is responsible for electric vehicle batteries. Take, for example, EV battery giant contemporary Amperex Technology took the world stage by storm after it announced a $5.1 billion manufacturing plant in Indonesia. And this is very much evident in the entire renewable sector. But further than this, it's really Indonesia's hunger for growth in the past. From the dawn of the 21st century to today, we saw a rise in demand for so much infrastructures, goods, and advanced technologies. With China's growing role in Asia and its geography being close to Indonesia, it was imperative that the two nations would one day become large economic partners. After all, China has the capital and goods to help Indonesia abundantly.